Welcome to the Middleware Tech YouTube channel. In this series, you'll learn about exception handling in Python. Null code examples used in the videos will be available on GitHub. Let's get started.
See, exception, first of all, what is this exception? Exception means abnormal condition. Exception means abnormal condition. So what does it mean by this? So when, let me give one example. Assume when you're moving from one location, assume you're moving from by a flight, India. Okay, you're moving by a flight from one location to another location. So when I'm moving from one location to another location via flight, then you have to wear some of the jackets, right? I mean, during flight. So what does it mean by this? Meaning is that during flight, if any abnormal situation comes, then the life jackets will save you. So that the program that I'm going to execute during my program, if any abnormal situation comes, so how I'm going to take care of that abnormal condition. So that abnormal condition is called exception. So when I'm going to write some code, so how I'm going to take care of that abnormal condition during our program execution. So you can say that an exception is an event which occur during execution of a program that disrupts the normal flow of program's instruction. So in general, when a Python script encounters a situation that it cannot cope up with, it raises an exception. Okay, and an exception it is a Python object that represents an error. So in which scenario this exception object thrown, as for I'm just giving some scenario like assume I'm going to define a equal to 10. So a is initialized with 10. Fine. And I'm going to initialize another variable b equal to 0. Now, if I'm going to write c equal to a by b, if you see this scenario, something by 0. Something by 0 is infinite. Something by 0 is defined as infinite, or 0 by 0 is called undefined. So it is not a value, right? So if you got this type of scenario, this is said to be as one type of, then you're going to print the value of c. You're going to print the value of c. So it will not print the value of c. Why? Because something by 0 is infinite, or 0 by 0 is infinite. It is not a value. So if you got this type of scenario, then it will throw an exception object. Okay, this is one of the scenario when you will get an exception object. Let me say another one scenario. You have defined one array. Last now you have talked about array, right? So A, you have defined one array. Inside an array, you have some elements, right? Okay. Now I'm going to show this is an array where is zero. So already I told you that array or list is in Python is ordered. That means each and every element has its own index position. This is in 0 position, 1 position, 2 position, 3 position. Now I'm going to print an object that is available in the index position 4. If you see that index position 4, that doesn't exist. Index position 4, that doesn't exist. So that time what it will do is that it will throw an exception class object, right? So this is the two scenario where this is nothing but one type of abnormal condition. Both the scenario is one type of abnormal condition. So if this abnormal condition comes in your program, that time the exception class object will be thrown, and it will not permit you to execute your code. So let's see how this abnormal situation comes. Let's see, I'm just executing this code. So just see here, copy. I'm just executing this code. Let's see what is that abnormal condition it comes. Open, get a separate program, file, save as, and save this program as except.py. And I'm just saving in a separate folder, as in this folder name is related to exception. Inside that, I'm going to file. Okay. So you can use class demo, and here you can use one method. Since okay, now I've written this code inside the method. Code is defined inside the method. Just see here. Now what I'll do, I'm going to create an object of this class e equal to exception demo. I'm calling e dot. Just execute this code. Just execute. If you execute this code, see here, it is generating an error. Its name is division by 0, right? So division by 0. So this class object is thrown division by division, 0 division error. Why? So this is one type of abnormal situation because it doesn't have any value. So that is being thrown. Just see in which line number? Line number 15. Line number 15. This is thrown. That's why it is not printed. So that means what? My existing code I cannot compile. You can compile and run this code. See here, this code you cannot compile and run. This existing code you cannot compile and run, right? So in that case, so how to resolve this situation? The code I cannot compile and run, right? So how I can resolve this situation if this exception, this condition come, then how I can resolve this situation, right? This is my method. Okay. Now, how I'm going to resolve this situation? So to resolve this situation, we have some try block, try except block. So we have to put this line of code where this abnormal condition generated. We have to put this line of code inside a block. Show that when the exception object will be thrown, that block will resolve that abnormal condition, and we can compile and run that code. Okay, so we have to resolve this abnormal condition, right? So to resolve this abnormal condition, what we have to do is that we have to put this line of code inside a try block. This is the line. Now sometimes we know that yes, in this line number that exception object is thrown, but when you are a part of a particular big project, it is not easy to understand sometime that where that exception actually thrown. That time you can see the line number, it will show the line number in the console. From here you can understand in which line that exception object is thrown. Now I got that yes, exception object line is thrown in this line number. Okay, sometimes you may find that in these examples you find only one exception object is thrown. Sometimes you may find like more than one exception object can also be thrown, right? So the line where exception object is thrown, what I'll do is that we'll put those line of code inside try block. Put this line of code inside a try block. Try block will write like this. Okay, we'll put those line of code inside try block. Okay, and so that means the exception will be thrown from this try block. So somewhere you have to catch this exception, right? So to catch that exception in Python, they've given one block called except. Remember, in Java we have the block is called catch block, but in Python they have given this block called except the exception. Assume I don't know which exception object is thrown in that line number, right? So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to define one try and except block and show that I can compile and run my code, so that I can handle that abnormal condition in my code. How? Using this try and except block. Let me check if I use this block, can I resolve this problem or not? Okay, so open your code. I'm going to use try block here. Try, define, and then define the except block. Except, exception. I'm defining this. Now, you can write something so that you can understand. Yes, the control came here. Write something that exception handled. Okay, so if I put this like this, or exception caught, you can write like this. Now, so is it? So just see that I've done like this. I can just save it, file, save all. Okay, and okay, so just file, save all. Now execute this code. Now see here, in this time I have used try catch block, try and except block. When I use this try and except block, if you see here, your code compiled and run, and you can see this got printed because the exception thrown in the catch except block, and that statement gets printed. That means what happened now, that I can compile and I can run my code and the exception is handled. right? Earlier, when that abnormal condition generated, at that time I cannot compile and run my code, right? Now now if any abnormal condition generated, that abnormal condition I have handled using this try and except block. You to remember, in case on Python, we have to use try and except block. Okay, now you can see your code is running, right? Though you cannot print the value of C, your code is running fine, correct? Okay, now here, now see here. Now what happened in this line of code? What happened in this line of code? I want to say the steps. So what happened in this code is that first step one, what happened? Exception object thrown from I block. In step two, what happened? Step two, exception object thrown from the try block, and it get caught in the except block. Okay, caught in the except block. Now what next? Next what? Next that exception object that caught into the except block. What happened? What happened in the except block? Inside the except block, what happened? In the except block, that exception object is thrown to PVM, Python virtual machine. Number three, exception object is thrown to, actually this exception object first, exception object converted as a string, then step 4, that exception object is at a string is thrown to PVM, Python virtual machine. And problem, step 5, PVM right, take care of it, right? PVM will take care of it. I'm not writing. So this is actually happened, and that's why you can see here the code will compile and run. Fine. Okay, that's the first point. Now that exception that we are talking about here, what is the name of the exception? Name of the exception is zero division error. Correct. But here I have used exception. Right. Sometimes if you are not familiar with what type of exception class object is thrown, in that case, you can use the top level class name as exception. If you know the exact class name, you can use the exact class name. If you don't know, you can use the top level class name to handle that particular exception. Fine. Okay. Now see, the abnormal condition that I'm seeing here, this abnormal condition can be generated in two scenarios. This abnormal condition you can find in two scenarios. One is called during runtime, during compile time. Another is during runtime. During runtime. So during compile time, you can get that exception. So in that case, we say it's a compile time exception. If you get during runtime, then we say it's a runtime exception. So that exception object will be thrown that have some scenario that when that exception object will be thrown. Okay. Now Now, if you see, if you execute this line of code, if you see this line of code, right? Exception object, where this exception object is thrown, that that single try block. Now here, this is a single try block, right? So this single try block, try statement can have multiple except statements. Okay, so this is useful when that try block contains statements that may throw different types of exception. Okay, now the thing is that when I'm going to print this exception here, this line, if you see this line not executed, this line executed, let me check whether this line executed or not. Write something here. Write something here like the value is equal to plus. I'm using like this. Okay. I want to print something. Now, if you write like this and save it and execute, you can see that this line not executed. Executed? No, this line not executed because the exception object is thrown in this line and it came into the except block. This line not gets executed, this line. Right? That means what? Where exception object is thrown, the next line not executed. Right? This line not executed, because if it is executed, you could have seen that output here. Right? Because this line not executed. But the thing is that, so that what does it mean? The meaning is that, so but I have to execute this line of code. I have to execute this line of code. So what I'll do is that I'll just control X. I'll put this line of code inside and another block, that is our if you see here, I have I've used finally block now. Okay, now see what will happen. Save it and run. What is the local C reference before assignment? Okay, fine. So you can just write here C equal to 0. Now okay, C is 0, so here you're doing the concatenation, or you can do like this. Nice. Now see here. Now see here, this same line, when I kept it here in the try block, same line when I kept in the try block, I kept in the try block, is not executing. When I put this in the catch block, finally block, when I execute this code, I can see it is working, executing. Correct? So what we'll find, I find another one block, finally block here. So what I can write here is that I'm talking about finally block. So this finally block, why I need this finally block when I'm going to execute this code, right? The finally block means I got one of the scenario. What is the first scenario? First scenario is that some of the code it's possible that some of the code if we can write inside the try block, some of the code, if we can write in the try block, some of the code, if we write in the try block, then it is possible that the PVM may avoid the execution of those line of code. But we must have to execute them. And what I say is that some of the code we can put in the try block. Some of the code we can put in the try block here, right? So here, what I have written. Some of the code we can put in the try block, but it is possible that PVM may avoid the execution of those line of code. It is possible. I've given the scenario. It is not running, right? So why it is not running? So right, that I've given here. Some of the code, if we write in the try block, it is possible that PVM may avoid the execution of those line of code, but we must have to execute them. The solution is that we will execute them inside the finally block. Finally block. Then it will must execute. So if I write inside finally block, I find those code gets executed, right? So that's why the finally block came into picture. If you write some code inside try block, you find that that code may not execute. Then if you put them in the finally block, I must have to execute those line of code. So if you put those line of code inside finally block, you will find that those code gets executed. Okay, fine. Okay, now here, now what are the two? There is two scenario when you'll find that those code may not execute. Two scenarios there. Two scenario you'll find when the code that you have written inside try block, you may find it may not execute. What are the two scenario? Case one. Case one. Case one means the line, the next line where the exception will be thrown will never be executed. First scenario is the next line where the execution will be where the exception object is thrown. So that is the first scenario. Next line to where next line where the exception object is thrown. That means this one. Next line where the exception object is thrown, it will not be executed. Second scenario, case two. Case two is that you'll find some of the object, we say that those are non-Python objects, something like that. You may get it the term like this in some of the specification, non-Python object or non-Python object. Some book specification find like this, or some of the specification you find like the object that is used to connect some external source from Python. The object that is used to connect some external source from Python. What type of object it is? Maybe it is one type of object from Python. You are going to connect with JSON object. JSON object from Python. You have connected with the file, CSV file. From Python, you have connected with the database. From Python, you have connected with some XML file. So these are some external application. These are some external application. If I'm going to connect with this external application from Python, if you want to connect to this external application from Python, then you have to create some object in Python. Okay, so there is some specific you have to create some object in Python. Now, when you created those objects, you have to close them. Again, I'm saying, assume from Python application, you have connected with this external source. So when I'm connected with this external source, you have to create some object to connect with this external source. So when I've created those objects, after that, you're closing those objects. So if you create and close this object here inside the try block, it is possible that PBM may not execute those object. As for example, when I've created a particular object, that object will allocate some resource from the heap, right? So when I've created that object, it is after that you have to use it. After that you have to close it to deallocate the resource used by that object. But if you close that object inside the try block, it is possible that PBM may not execute that object. But I must have to close that object, because then only deallocate the resource used by that object. I must have to close that object. In that scenario, if you close that object in the Python block, then Python block with the help of the operating system, it will must close that object. It will bound the object to close or deallocate the resource used by that object, right? So these are the two scenarios when I should use finally block inside my Python program, right? The two scenario these are the two major scenario when you have to see that why you are going to use that Python error. Okay, right? Now in this example, in the example just now we have done, in this example you find one type of exception object name came. What is the name of this exception? Just see here, one exception object came. Name of that exception is that you have handled. Yes, and the exception that you have handled in your code, name of the exception, you can see from here itself. Name of the exception is division by 0. It is there, right? A 0 division error. This is the name of the exception, division by Control C. That we got. No. Is only we are familiar with this class. We have seen this. Okay. Let me see another one exception class. We are still now we're familiar with this 0 division error. When it is thrown, we find. Okay. Let me get another one scenario. There is a different types of error. is there. Let's see. Let me execute another one class, and I want to show you another one scenario where I will get an exception and different types of exception. What is that? So let's write another one class. Value. Just name. It's just a name of the class. Nothing is there. And inside this class, I'm going to define one method. Method name is m1 self. Okay. And inside this method, you can write like while true. Then till the time it is returned true, then you will take an input from the user. Assume n equal to I want to take an input from the user. Okay, input, and here you can write like please enter an integer is enter and enter your marks. Okay. And when you enter the marks, then you have to take it inside value. So n equal to take it inside a value int n, that you have converted that input as an int, right? And assume you can make it as a do not do anything, leave it break. So and write some other statement, print like that get you have successfully entered your marks. Thanks. You have successfully entered your marks. Okay. It's a simple program, right? Okay, fine. Now I have to create an object of the class. Object of the class. See. So object of the class is v equal to, and then I'm calling v dot. That's it, right? So let's see what type of exception we'll get here. Just see. That's why I'm just executing this code. Control C. So create another one class. File. Save as. I'm saving here. Here demo dot py. That's my code. Just now I've written. Method, and inside this method I have while loop. I'm taking the input from the user. This input I have inside an int I've converted, and just I'm using a break. And if it is successful, then in this statement, that's it, done. Okay. Now let me execute this code. Just see here. It's saying enter your marks. I've given the marks as 7. It's saying thanks, you have successfully entered your marks. Let me execute once again. I've given my marks as a character. Now see here, when I'm giving a character as a marks, here in this line, it is throwing an exception. What the name of the exception? Value error. An exception object is thrown, value error. Yes, so we got another one exception that is generated by Python. Name of the exception is value error. We got another one exception, value error. If I want to resolve this problem, what I have to do? I have to put this line of code inside try block, right? And using try block, then for this try block, I have to use except block. So use that except block, except, and use value error directly here. You know the class, right? Value error. Okay. And then we'll send some message like enter, please enter correct value. That's it, right? Okay, save it, file, save all. And if you execute, it will tell you marks. I'm using the marks as some character. And if you insert, it is saying that exception, that catch block, except block exception caught in the except block, and it is throwing this message that please enter correct value. Please enter correct value, right? Right? Okay. So what we find this time, we got another one class. Exception class. What is the name of the class? Name of the class is value error. Correct. So the thing is that if you think about exception hierarchy in Python, if you think about exception hierarchy in Python, the top level, I'm talking about exception hierarchy. Top level class under exception is called base exception. Under base exception, you have exception. Under exception, you'll find two types of exception. Under exception, you'll find two types of exception. One is called standard error. Another is called warning. STAN. Another is called warning. Okay. So under this this standard error, you'll get all the exception classes under this. You'll get all the exception classes. Like you have, tell me, arithmetic error. You have some class like you may get runtime error. You have some other class called it's called UF error. Okay. You can add another one class. It's called take assertion error is also there. I'll comment the assertion. Okay. And under warning also you'll get some of the classes like we have runtime warning is there. Runtime there. We have another one class under warning, it is called import warning or deprecated warning, right? Like this, lots of warning classes are there. So this is the exception hierarchy in Python. Okay, the error that we got in our program that comes under standard error. Now these are the different types of error. Now each and every error you will generate, which error is going to generate in which scenario. So that will come with practice. You'll come to know when you execute multiple program, you will see that which error gets generated in which scenario. But all those errors comes under these two category. That is, all the errors will be generated in this two category. One is compile time, another is during runtime. Some of the errors you may find in compile time, some of the errors you may find in runtime. All the errors that you find, that you get in this two scenario. Now here I have given another one, assertion error. This is used a lot in our exception. This is also another example of assertion error in Python exception. If you work on this Python code, this error is used a lot in development environment and Python projects. You may find this. So let me show this error in which scenario this assertion error come into picture. Let me give one example scenario when this assertion error will come. Okay, let me give one example. I think it is. We are in the case study. We are going to use this. So here one example for assertion error. Then see assert is a this assert statement is useful to ensure that a given condition is true. It is used used to ensure or to ensure that a given condition is true. Assert, when you got anywhere you got this assert, you may get it in other language also. Assert means it is always going to check whether a given condition is true or false. This is the purpose of using this assert. Okay, so we are going to use this assert only in this example where this assertion error will be thrown. So assume you are taking same example that you just now you have done. Inside an X, I'm going to take the input like input, enter your marks. Marks, fine. Now the marks that you have entered, that will be converted as an int and it will come inside a variable X. Now what I'm going to do, assert keyword, I already told you that it is used for condition check. That may be any condition. In testing also you'll find multiple location. So let me give one small condition using assert. I want to use a condition as the X value, the value that I got from the user. So this X value, if it is greater than some condition, assume greater than equal to, you can write greater than equal to 5. Okay, and X less than equal to 10. If this condition satisfy, then you can print like print some statement. The number like the number is going to print the number as X. Okay, right. Okay, that's it. And it's going to print like right. Okay, so let me execute this. Let me execute this. Nothing is there. One condition I'm going to check using assert queue. Assert, right? Okay. Let me execute Control C. The same code I can execute. Or you're declaring another class. Okay, leave it another class. File, save as. I'm not creating any class. I'm just writing here only. Okay, no class. You can write like this. Not have any error. Taking the input, assured. Okay, and print this. Okay, save it. File, save all, and execute. Enter your marks. So I've just given the marks as 9. Thank you. You have successfully entered your marks. No, it is a wrong program. Execute this one. Now if we see here, there's some problem with X. What is that X? It's not taking the input, right? Okay, fine. So demo F1 self, write it inside a method. It's not that I have to write class always. We can execute with method also. But in that case, not required this self. This is the method where I have written this code. And then I'm going to call this method in def m1. Already we know, right? We don't mandatory that we have to create a class itself. I have written this code. Now I have to call this. Okay. If you see here, enter your marks. I have given mark 7. The number is 7. Working fine, no issues. Okay. Now this is the procedure-oriented programming. Define a particular method, and I'm calling this method. Now here, assume you have not given a marks. You have given one character. Fine. Now when I given this character, so it is going to send a evaluator as like earlier, and that evaluator comes because of this conversion. Now, if I'm not going to put in this condition, the input is not in this condition, assume the input is something else like 12. Assume the input is something else like outside of this range, 60. Now it's showing an assertion error. Why this error? If the condition does not satisfy, then this assertion error gets generated. The condition not satisfy, then this assertion error gets generated. Now how to resolve it? How I can resolve this assertion error? In that case, the same things. I have to use try block. I have to use try block. Fine. And you have to use small indentation. So
but Amitabh, we can use it with the if condition also. Means what is the benefit of assertion?
no, assertion mainly is used for condition. If the condition not satisfy, then only we go with asserters. Many testing purpose we use it. If that condition not satisfied, then only that assertion error will come.
Okay.
That I can resolve with except assertion error. Okay, and here you can print some statement. It will come print and just like that the condition not. That's fine. So you can see, right? Fine. So this assert keyword is used in multiple location. Just main purpose, this assert statement is useful to ensure that a given condition is true. So if that condition is false, then exception by the name assertion error is raised along with the message that you have written, right? So this assertion error is used multiple location program. You'll find it for testing requirement. Okay, just I've given one example here. Another thing here is that user-defined exception. Another thing, how I can generate user-defined exception. Now, see these exceptions that you talked about, like assertion error, talked about value error, we talked about zero division error. These are predefined. These are predefined. Let me talk about this one itself. See, I'm talking about user defined exception in Python. How I can generate user defined exception in Python. Now, let me give one. Now we got different types of exception. One of the exception is this. So when this exception will be generated, if 0 by 0 comes or something by 0 comes. If this type of scenario comes, Python program, then it is provided that if this type of scenario comes, then this class object should be thrown. This is predefined. This is predefined in the API. Now I want to create my own exception. So this is the predefined. If this type of scenario comes, then this error object will be thrown. Fine. But now if I want to create my own exception class, then how I'll create? If I want to create my own exception class in Python, then how I'll create my own exception class? That is said to be as an custom exception. Okay, so or user defined exception. We say it also as custom exception. Custom exception will be our own exception. I want to get my own exception, right? And that I want to use in my code. And that exception object I want to throw if a particular condition does not meet, right? Okay, so that means this is one type of another one point. This is not a built-in exception that you can say another one point. Built-in, I mean already that exception is defined in the API, right? So the question is how we can create user-defined exception. How we can create user-defined exception, right? Okay, so to create an user-defined exception, let me give one scenario. Assume for a credit card application for student. Okay, credit card application for a student where if their age limit is between 20 to 25, then only they will get that student credit card, else they will not get. So age limit the student should be between this range. If they have the age limit, then only they will get the credit card, else they will not get. So that means if they are not coming in this range, then I want to throw an user-defined exception. Okay, if they're not coming in this range, then I want to throw an user-defined exception. So how I can do it, right? So assume my user-defined class name is, you can define your own user-defined exception class name. Assume my user-defined exception class name is class age out of range exception. Age out of range exception. Assume this is your this is our user-defined exception class name. Okay, and if you remember that, okay, is it an exception class? First of all, is it an exception class? Now colon, I've written some method inside this. Assume df m1. This is my method self colon, and I've just printed something. And the question is that, is it an exception class? No, it is not an exception class. Just providing the name is not enough for an exception class. If you remember, we have done last day inheritance in Python. So my class will be an exception class only when it will extend exception. I can create my own exception class only when it will extend exception. So what I have to do, I have to create here exception. Now it's an exception class. Now this is an exception class because this class will extend exception. Okay, fine. So if you have created an exception class, then I do not write any method. Better to use best option to use constructor. So I'm using constructor. And it's a parameterized constructor, so I can use self and MSG, some message. And here you can initialize that message. Like you can create one instance variable inside the class message equal to MSG that you're going to initialize, right? And how to point this instance variable inside the class. So how to point that instance variable inside a class using self dot, right? Okay. So this is a user-defined exception class, and this is the constructor, parameterized constructor inside the user-defined exception class. Fine. Okay. Now we have to think best this scenario. If that condition does not match, then this user-defined exception class object will be thrown. Right. So to talk about that, let's create my class like credit card demo like this, some name class student CC demo, something like this. Fine. Now inside this class, if you're writing a class, you can use some default constructor inside the class. Init self and sorry, define this so what I want to do, let's take that input from the user, take that input from the user here. Okay, so how to take input already you know, right? Input please enter your age. Okay, so that I have to take inside a variable. inside a variable h equal to this. Now that should be an int. That should be an int. So convert it as an int, assume g equal to int, have to use the function in Python. Right. So I have to use some condition like his age should be less than 25. Okay. So I'm using only this less than. So already you know, right, how to write if condition, already talked about last time. So if g less than 25, then right, already you know, right, after condition we have to use colon because I have to define this condition. What it is less than 25 or sorry, if it is less than 20, what I want to say is that if the age is less than 20, then he is not eligible for the student credit card. So if the age is less than 20, then the application will send an user-defined exception, that the age out of range exception. So that I'm saying here, if the age is less than 20, then it will send an user-defined exception. So how it is going to send an user-defined exception? There is one word that we use called raise. Raise exception class object will be thrown. Save this class, Control C, Control V, and here you can write some statement like the input age is out of range. That exception will be thrown. Else. So already you know, right? After if we have to define the if condition. After else, you have to define the else condition. So after else, you can use like, so thanks for your input, something like that. You can write, right? Okay. And thanks. Right? Okay. So this is my user-defined exception class, and this is my main class. The main class, or everything I have implemented inside a constructor, you can implement inside a method also. Okay, fine. Right? Okay. Now, if the age limit is less than this, then what will happen? You are going to throw an user-defined exception. So this user-defined exception will be thrown from here, right? So who is going to call that exception? Exception that is thrown from here, who is going to call that exception? So that's why what you have to do is that you have to define this code inside try block. And this code. So that means if you're going to throw this exception, that exception will be thrown from the try block. Okay, and for this try, you have to define one except block. Right, and in the except block, this exception will be caught. Now in these examples, I already know this is the exception is being thrown actually. So you can cut this exception in the except block. Right, now I want to print that exception. I want to print this exception. Either you can use print some other message, or you can, I want to print this message only that is being thrown, right? So I want to print that message itself. So in that case, you can use like as some variable, and that variable you can print in this print e dot, and we use here just to print that value. If you just print e, that's it. Okay, I think it should work. No issues. Done basic things. And then what you have to do, we have to create the object of this class. Control C, right? And is equal to, right? And then what I'm going to do, it will work because everything is done inside a constructor, right? I have not created any method. Everything is in the constructor. So when I'm going to create this object, this constructor will be called and things will be executed. No issues. I think it should work. So let's us execute this. Student cc demo.java demo.py. Control C. File, save as. Student cc. Okay. This is our user defined exception, and this is our main class. So my main class should have a default constructor. Inside this default constructor input, if and else would come in the same line. Else it should come into except block, that will come if try. Inside except block it should print. And then we have to create an object of this class, not required as the reference because the constructor will be fine. So file save all, should not have any error except, okay, I have to use try colon except colon. No other issues, fine. Okay, so just save it, file save all, and let's execute this one. Run. Enter your age just put it as 15. Yes, here please. 15 I've sent, right? So what will happen is that the control came here, try block. So this condition gets executed. It will throw this exception object. An exception object contain the name called the input age is out of range. So that will come inside the except block. The except block, you got this age out of range exception as E, and you are printing this exception here. That's why we got this message, the age is out of range. And it's working fine, right? In this example, right? So it is the smallest example how I can throw user-defined exception. In the project, you'll find this type of lots of exception you find, but this is the smallest one to talk about how I can throw an user-defined exception using a Python program, right? And you will get it in our case study also. You'll get this. So that's why I thought, let me show one good example for user-defined exception, right? So these are the things that is available in Python. Except that we have lots of things. Is that if you go to the API documentation, you can find different types of logger, different types of logging error level is there. So you can go into the advanced side after this. What you talked about here in exception. These are the major things in Python exception. Just check this code, should not have any doubts. So these are the major things that you talked about in exception. What is exception? How we can handle exception in Python. Different types of exception, why we need finally block, and how I can use the finally block to handle a particular exception in two scenario, right? And then I've given two scenario when this value error exception or zero by division exception comes into picture. This is our exception hierarchy. All right, and talked about assert, and then is a defined exception. These are the main thing is there. And if you go to the API documentation, you may get some more on exception side. Let's go to API documentation for Python. Okay, go to the API documentation for Python and just write here exception details like so there's lots of things is there, different types of exception to connect with different data source. Okay, let me check in the left side. Not these things. This one I was talking about. We can create some exception to handle logger also. But I've not seen. I can go with this. I can try how we can implement exception for logger. Logger message also you can implement as an exception using Python. So you'll get some more details into the documentation. But whatever we talked about here is that some of the basics on exception, mean root concept that we need, how I can handle exception using